Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Good Morning Mama. Today we are talking about homesteading. So it's going to be a fun episode talking about all things homesteading. So here we go. Welcome to Good Morning Mama. We're two instant best friends with a combined 13 children, ages newborn to 16, talk about all things motherhood. Our new mom versus seasoned mom dynamic will leave you laughing, and our Christian values and positive outlooks will leave you inspired. So grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and enjoy our visit. Okay, so on the topic of homesteading, let's jump right in and just talk about did either of us grow up with a homesteading home when we were children?
I
Did
didn't.
you? I
No,
didn't either.
I grew up in Southern California. I grew up at the
Okay.
beach. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a small town in Missouri where there were people who had farm animals and, did more homesteading, but it's not something my family ever did. It wasn't like on my radar that, um, that was normal to have chickens and want to make your own sourdough and
Yeah.
do those kind of things. And it honestly wasn't until we moved to Little Rock, and my father-in-law, we call him Grampy Norm, he passed away a few months ago, and we miss him so much. But one thing he left with us was the gift of homesteading and a lot of the knowledge of how to homestead. And I'm realizing it more and more and more what a gift that was. And I never was around, chickens and farm anything until we moved to Little Rock, and he moved with us and built a home on our property so he could be near his grandkids. And soon came the chickens because he always had chickens and farm animals. And so next thing you know, he's building a chicken coop. Next thing you know, we have chickens, and then we have fresh eggs, and our kids are going back and forth to the chicken coop to get the eggs, and they get so excited when they brought the eggs into the house, and we would, cook or make them for breakfast. And ever since then, I'm just like, I could not imagine not having chickens and a garden and just having this type of homesteading type of lifestyle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So Rob and I definitely want land, and like we've talked about homesteading. We are city people. We like our air conditioned little containment. We don't like critters. Like we like like Rob will go
They
out in
come
the
with home.
Go out in the backyard with me because we like to like ground and like be barefoot in the grass, whatever. The kids play, everything. Karla, he can't handle the little like mosquitoes. He's like, he gets annoyed after like 10 minutes of being out there. He's like, I'm going back in. So I'm like, how? I don't know how we're going to be able to do this, but it does sound good in theory. Like, I know that I want to live on land so the kids can run outside, but it scares the crap out of me. I'm going to be honest.
Well, I know that it's going to be a funny adventure whenever you have land and start having critters that come along with all those things.
So, okay, so how do you do it? Weird question. Um, just let's start with the chickens. So the
Okay.
eggs, because I grew up used to eggs having to be refrigerated, and that's because they're like washed, right? So when they come fresh from the chicken, you don't have to throw them right in the refrigerator, or do you?
Well, I mean, I wish my father-in-law was here to answer these questions because he's probably laughing at me right now trying to struggle through these. But so I think that is true. However, we get ours pretty soon after the eggs are laid because we
Yeah.
check them every day and we gather the eggs from that day, and we do clean them and we put them right in the refrigerator.
Okay.
So it's partly for us because that's where we keep the eggs. The eggs
Right.
go in the refrigerator, and we have
Right.
this like egg organizer in the fridge, and we just put them there. But it's also because I feel like I like cold eggs. I just like
Yeah.
them from the fridge.
Yeah.
But I think that is true. They don't necessarily have to be refrigerated immediately.
Mhm.
Um, so that is true. But chickens are not that hard to raise. And I think
You
that
have to feed them.
you do have to feed them, but you can let them be free range too. And if they
Yeah.
are free range, and you live in the country and you have plenty of area for them to walk around, they're going to find like ticks. So they help with bugs. They're going to find like little caterpillars or grubs or whatever is in the
Yeah.
ground, and they're going to find food on their own. So we do get, grain and Sam is 14, and he has taken to homesteading and the chickens and the garden after Grampy Norm passed away. And he is kind of my new expert on all of the homesteading things. Like he'll tell me when we need grain for the chickens or when we need to do things with the garden. Like he's been researching it and he just kind of knows. But the other day, like the other week, he was at church camp. And so I had to handle all of the chickens.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was kind of fun that week that I had to, open them up in the morning, close the door in the evening, and just make sure they had food and water and gather the eggs. And it was also the week where all of our baby chicks were like hatching. It was so crazy because we have a few broody hens, which means they sit on their own eggs and they hatch their own eggs rather than us putting them in an incubator. So we had some eggs in the incubator. We had some eggs that were underneath these broody hens. So I wasn't collecting the eggs. Sam told me that, like, Mom, don't collect the eggs because they're under the broody hens. And I'm glad he told me that because that would have been
Yeah.
so bad.
'Cause how do you know the difference? I
Well,
would.
you don't. That's a good question too. So, um, you know if a hen is broody because they simply will not get off the eggs. I mean, they will like fight you to when you try to take their eggs, and they want to sit on these eggs. And so, if you want baby chicks, then you just let that chicken have the eggs under her and just leave her alone. And then in I think 23 days, there will be baby chicks. And it's the craziest thing because you walk into the chicken coop and you hear this like little beep 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 beep, and all of a sudden
How
like this
cute.
out from the chicken. It's so cute. I know.
Oh.
And so then I take the chick and I move it to, we call it the garden shed. And it's like this little pen inside of this building where we have a heat lamp and then we have grain and water in there for the baby chicks. And they stay in there for several weeks until they get bigger. And then they go to like this intermediate pen, which is like this pen that's like 2 feet off the ground and it's probably 10 feet long. And it's got cage all around it and it has wheels too. So you can move it around. But then the chicks can be outside in this um, pen on wheels, and then they get a little bigger. And then once they're past that stage, then they get introduced back to the chicken coop with all of the older chicks or the
So
older
do the
chickens.
moms like fight you? Like how do the moms deal with the chicks, or it's kind of like they're on their own once they're
Yeah, they.
born?
I always like they're not the most maternal animals, other than the sitting on the egg part. Like
Okay.
one, yeah, at least our chickens have not been. So when the baby chick hatches, then the mama chick's kind of like, okay, like I'm done,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah. Enjoy your life.
Yeah. But she does do a good job sitting on them. She does not want to move and she will sit on them. But then once they hatch, she doesn't, I mean, she's not really, going to
Yeah.
take care of them. They have to figure out how to get food and water on their own. She's not going to help them with that. Um, and so
Okay.
that's why we kind of intervene
Do
at
it.
that point and we
Yeah.
take to another place with
So I
little baby.
wonder what happens like in real life. Not that this isn't real life,
Yeah,
that's real
no,
life.
I get
But
it.
what happens like in nature when you don't? Do they just
They figure it out.
they figure it
No,
out?
I think, well, I bet they do die sometimes, but I think they just figure it out because whenever we put them in the garden shed, I do kind of dip their heads in the water and in the
Yeah.
food and tell them, like, you eat and drink here, to try to teach them. But they, after I do it that one time, and even if I don't, they probably would figure it out on their own, but
Yeah.
they just do it and then they just grow. It's the craziest thing. Um,
Wow.
so the other day we were driving through town and the boys love going to this tractor store that has animals in it. And they asked me if they could stop and just look around. And we had time. And I was like, okay, but just be quick because I had the other kids in the van. So they went in and came out with 6 ducks. And so I know. So to add to our homestead, we now have ducks. And they're so cute. And
And
they're
so you have a cow, right?
Yes, we have a cow. We've had several cows at one point, and then we downsized because the whole cow thing. We're not from you know homes that had a lot of cattle, and so that was kind of a new thing to us. But we tried it, and we didn't originally
You
have
don't know this about me, but my
okay.
favorite farm animal is cows.
Oh,
Love,
like the
I
ones with
like
the
my
long
dad.
horns, or
It doesn't
yeah,
matter. My
You said
dad we used to drive past these like farms on the way to whenever we were commuting back and forth from my mom to my dad's house. And he'd always try to show me the horses and they could give a crap. I was
yeah.
like, yeah. And then I would see these cows. I'd be like, cows, woo, cows. Like I love cows. So that's why I was curious about it. Okay, so you have a cow, but
That was
that's
our
kind of your pet now, right?
It has turned into our pet, and our cow's name is Spot. And so back to Grampy Norm. So we had cows, several cattle, I guess I should call them. And, then we downsized and we had a few. And then, once those turned into meat and we had a bunch of freezer full of meat, then we got this other cow. And Norm always liked to get the cows as like baby calves and bottle feed them. And so he would bottle feed these calves and the kids would help with that. And he thought it was the coolest
Oh,
experience
that
for
is
them
so
to learn that.
cute. Yeah.
It is really cool. And then, the cow would grow and then it would start eating grain. And then he would kind of lead it down the driveway to the cattle pen because he started it kind of by his house in this little shed that he made just for the baby calf. And it was really cute. And so that happened with Spot. And we raised it to kind of a medium sized cow. I think it's a steer, actually. It's a boy cow but it's a steer. It doesn't, it's not a functioning male cow.
Oh, okay. So then it can't have babies.
Correct. Yeah.
I see. I don't even know what a steer
So
means. Okay.
so yes, so it has had its um baby making parts removed.
You're so uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's so yeah, I guess they put a rubber band or something around them and then
Oh,
it
wow.
goes away. Yeah, but they do it young and it becomes a steer. But the reason they do that, I guess, is that it makes the meat taste better. Because if you let
Oh,
it be a bull and let I guess it's the testosterone or something, just be there, then I guess the meat doesn't, it has a different type of texture and flavor than if you
oh, I didn't know
don't let
that.
it. Yeah, so I didn't know that either until I was asking all the questions, like why are you doing that to the baby cow? Why are we?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the point, is that Spot was going to be another freezer full of meat, but after Grampy Norm passed away, we decided that Spot is now going to live out his years as our pet. So
So would Grampy Norm like do the meat stuff for you, like the chickens and the cows and all that? So now you're not getting in the
I would
butcher shop.
not,
No.
but no. And ironically enough, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't even eat any of the meat.
You
I
are.
Yeah, did you not know that about me?
No, I was
That's so
vegetarian
funny.
for 13 years.
Learn something every day.
Oh my gosh, you're a vegetarian. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So when I was like 8 years old, I just decided that I'm not eating meat anymore. I told my
Yeah.
parents that I don't like it. I just I don't like meat and I'm not eating it anymore. And I think I was strong-willed enough, and I guess they were respectful of my decisions enough that they were like, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they thought I was serious, but I was, and I just have not eaten meat. And I don't the only reason is I don't like meat and I don't like the idea of it, and I just
Yeah.
can live without it. And people will say things to me like, that's unhealthy and you need protein, and it's not good to be pregnant and not have
Well, but that's
I'm
not
like, I've done
true.
it 9 times.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's not exactly true. Have you seen the Netflix documentary where they take like triathletes and pro athletes and they make them a vegan, a vegetarian, and then a full carnivore, and then fast food, and they measure their blood, and
Interesting.
the vegetarian always wins out. It's
Huh.
so crazy. I still eat meat
Believe
because I like it.
Yeah.
But I was a vegetarian for a very long time. And I think you get enough protein if you do it the right
Okay.
way. It's
Well, and I guess I would be called a lacto-ovo
yes.
vegetarian.
So you have the
Meaning
eggs.
I
And
eat eggs and I eat dairy. So I just don't eat meat. Like I won't eat chicken or beef or pork. I just don't eat meat. So, that's why. But yeah, Grampy Norm would take care of the meat part of the cows and the homesteading. And so now the boys actually can do a lot of that.
really,
And Lucas can do it too. But it's so cool how, I mean, Sam is 14 and Liam is 12. And they're just like, I knew they were capable, but I never realized like how capable they are because of the lessons of homesteading that they were taught by their grandpa. I think it's just so
Bet.
cool.
And I
Hmm.
bet it teaches them a lot about like the cycle of life
Yes, it
and
does.
not getting too attached
Yeah,
to things because life changes and you can
it
find
does.
kind of the beauty in all of that. I mean, I'm sure that you guys have death, right? On the homestead, like not all of the chicks survive.
Yes, it does, exactly. And Norm actually talked about that too, like to me. He said that he feels like having farm animals helps prepare them for, the circle of life, and it helps them, know about life and death. And I mean, because that is just part of homesteading, and that is a hard part. But not all the animals are going to make it, and there's going to be hard things like, an animal might get sick, or sometimes an animal might be suffering, and you know what I mean? Like just things like that. And they have to, you know, make those decisions and deal with all of those um, lessons as, we have a homestead, and it does help them, I think,
Yeah,
with just understanding just life, and I think it teaches them responsibility, work ethic, um, and just like
absolutely.
caring for something else other than themselves. I think that is so huge, in teaching kids that, because even if they don't feel like, letting the chickens out in the morning, or if it's too cold to close the door to the chicken coop, or whatever it is, or break the ice for the cow, in the winter to have water. Like they have to do that because they're like an animal that's helpless is depending on them, and so they do it. And I just think that there's like such lessons in that for them.
I completely agree because if you think about it, like it's really training them up on how to be husbands and providers for their families because I mean, there's really no you don't get to say no because you just don't feel like it. Like that's really I think that's something that's really great to be teaching
Mm-hmm.
kids. That's something that you really can't teach them with forcing them to make the bed and put some dishes away, with the chores. That's crazy. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the best part about the homesteading is those types of lessons, because I mean the fresh eggs are nice, and the
Yeah.
garden vegetables, like, yeah, that's wonderful, but the bigger life lessons is like just so invaluable, and like you said, you can't really learn those skills anywhere else.
No. And so I've seen some of your garden vegetables, like when we've been talking on the phone or whatever. They are so like big and beautiful, and like
Really
you can't
cool.
buy anything like that from the store. What kind of like this is my nerd. What kind of like soil and stuff, and how do you make your vegetables grow that way? Because I know like when you buy stuff from the store, even if you buy organic, it's still not super healthy and it's still not like but you guys are it's all natural. Like do you
Yeah.
use any special products or anything like that or no?
No,
Oh,
we don't use anything on the vegetables, but I would say if you are living somewhere where you either don't have a garden, or um, whatever it is, I would recommend a farmer's market is even better than buying organic at the store, because
yeah.
um, you're helping a local farmer. It is even more fresh than the organic produce at the store, which is, next best thing too. But getting like a fresh tomato that is straight from the vine, or
Yeah.
a cucumber that is straight from the vine, or just anything. Like we ate our own potatoes that we grew the other day, and I was like, these potatoes are amazing. Like they're like the
That's
best
so
potatoes I've ever had.
cool.
So cool. And so the way we started our garden, Grampy Norm once again started it. He picked out a spot that was full sun, and he tilled it. He kind of made out his, dimensions, what he wanted the garden, and he tilled it really good. We have a tiller. He walked behind it, and it tilled the garden really well to get the soil ready. And he put a fence around it that was pretty tall, because we also have deer and other critters that like to help themselves to our vegetables. We somehow our strawberries didn't really do well this year. I think, I don't know what it was, if it was a deer or something, got in and like ate all of our strawberries. And so Sam, I know, Sam spent several hours the other day in 90-degree weather just reinforcing the fence, because he was like, I'm not gonna have,
He's like,
our
I want my
strawberries get eaten.
strawberries.
I know. Those are our strawberries. And
That's so cute.
I know, but so we start our vegetables or our fruit. We have apple trees as well, and pear trees and peach trees, and but we start
Wow.
our vegetables in our little garden shed as little seeds. And so we'll get the tiny little seeds and we put them like in a paper towel and we fold them up
Yeah.
and we set them underneath our grow lamp. It's like this little heat lamp kind of thing that helps things grow. And we also have that kind of by a window. And so the paper towel is moist and the light is on them, the grow light. And then, I don't know, in a week or so, they start getting roots. And then once the roots are kind of growing, then we put them in little, almost like egg carton size
Okay.
containers of dirt. And we get special dirt for growing vegetables. I think it's just like extra quality dirt. And we'll put the little seedlings in there and let them start growing. And so once they get a little bit bigger, then we'll transfer those to the garden spot. And on the packet of the seeds, it'll tell you like how far apart they need to be planted and how deep they need to be planted. It's usually a tiny, like it's like a half an inch. Like you don't have to dig. It's like a half an inch in there. So you just like barely put, the seedling in there. But then you just let them go and you water them and hope they take off. And
Wow.
it's really a neat process. And it's been really fun for me as a mom to watch my kids just see that process and like embrace it. And they bring me, the produce from the garden and they're just so proud, because they did this, and I, of course, am like, oh my gosh, those tomatoes look
It is
amazing.
so
And I
cool.
just ate a bunch
Thanks.
of tomatoes and they,
Yeah.
I can tell they love that.
Oh my gosh, because yeah, you were eating them the other day, and I was like, those look like such good tomatoes, and a
Perfect.
lot, like
So many.
a lot. Like I didn't know that you could have that much come out of your backyard, of your garden,
Oh,
but you're
it's
almost
crazy. Yes.
the cucumbers. I mean, and watching Bo eat the cucumbers is
Oh,
so
he
cute
loves
to
them.
me.
Yeah.
Probably tastes so good. I've only
He
had
loves the cucumbers.
store-bought cucumbers my entire
Uh-huh.
life. I've never
Yeah.
had them fresh from the garden.
Yeah.
So to me, like, I'm like, what does it taste like? It's got to taste like delicious. And
Someday I'll get you some and you'll be able to experience a garden cucumber.
I know, or
But
we're just gonna have to get land over here and
or
figure.
that. There you
Yeah.
go. Do that. But
Oh,
you're right though, because there's so much. Like, I mean, when it's tomato season, oh, get ready, it's tomato season. And the cucumber, I mean, it's so much. We have so many cucumbers and tomatoes and just, vegetables all at once, berries. I mean, when it's the season for whatever the item is, you're going to get so much of it that it leads to another layer of homesteading, which is canning. And that's something that I'm not an expert in, but I've canned pickles and my kids love them so much that I can barely can them fast enough for them to just eat them, but they're so good. So how I do that is I get a packet from like a farm store. You can order it too. I wish I remember the name of it, but it's a packet that you can make pickles from. So you don't have to
okay.
have all of the ingredients. It's simply a little packet that you follow the instructions. And so you basically, just follow the instructions, but you boil the solution and then you pour it into your canning jars. You cut up your cucumbers however you think that you want to cut them up. I just cut them into spears. And then you put them in the jars and put the lids on. I just use the plastic lids for this just because my kids do eat them so fast. The metal lids are great for canning things that you need to put in a pantry and let them sit for a long time. And they're like pressurized. But I just put the plastic lids on because I know my kids are going to eat them so fast. And then I just let them cool and they eat them. And it's just so fun to turn a cucumber into a pickle. It's just a neat process.
So cool. So wait, so you use like the hot water.
Yep. You
You don't
boil
let
the
the
water.
water cool first.
No, you just
Oh,
you pour it in there, you add the cucumbers, but then it does cool, and then that's when you eat them. But and you
oh
can even
wow.
add. I haven't done this yet, but I want to do it on my next batch. You
Does
can
it
even
make them
add.
soft? I'm sorry. I'm so
No,
curious.
it doesn't. Well, and it doesn't. It makes them just a normal pickle texture, but you can add a
Oh,
spoon of this stuff
honey.
that makes them crispy. And so when you add that, it does make them have more of a crunch. But I haven't done that yet, but I want to. So,
Yeah, that sounds so
mhm,
interesting. Yes, it's
yep.
Mama. It's Karla. Can you go play
Hi,
with
buddy.
her? Can you go
But
play with
then, like with the tomatoes, you can make pasta sauce with them. You can do so many things with canning those too. And I haven't done that yet, but sometime I want to make my own like spaghetti sauce. That would be so fun, or
Oh,
my own
yeah, I
tomato
got
sauce.
some really good recipes. Okay,
Would
good.
that be good? And
I have
then
some good
for
recipes for you.
yeah, I can't wait. I love making recipes with our garden vegetables. It's like so rewarding. We made a bunch of jam the other day with our blackberries, and that was really fun. But I'm not an expert in canning, but it's something that I love doing because it makes it so your vegetables and your produce don't go bad because sometimes you just simply can't eat all of the
Yeah,
produce.
do you
And
freeze vegetables too? I'm
you
sorry.
can go for it. We're doing mom stuff and podcast stuff today. No, you can freeze almost anything. I've even heard of preserving eggs like in a jar of water and keeping eggs for a very long time as well. But I haven't done that. But there's so much to learn. And one thing that I have found with homesteading, whether it be, gardening or, making sourdough bread or canning or just any of it, is it's not hard. Like none of it is hard, but you have to plan ahead. Like anything involved
Yeah.
in homesteading, you have to think in the future. Because like if you're gardening, you can't think today. I mean, you have to pull weeds today and you have to water today and harvest your vegetables. But you have to be thinking the next season. Like you have to always be preparing for the next thing.
Wow.
Because like right now, Sam's got his fall vegetables starting so that he can get them in the ground before the first frost, and he knows the date of that and everything. And so you always have to
Wow.
prepare. Yeah. And so even like with sourdough, I know that today is the day where I need to feed my sourdough starter. And then tomorrow will be the day that I'm going to probably be baking. And so you always have to just think ahead with anything homesteading, whether it be canning or cooking or gardening or chickens or anything. But none of it is hard. And it's basic knowledge, but it's the planning and the forethought that is the hard part, I think, of homesteading.
Yeah, and knowing what to plan for because I wouldn't have
Mhm.
even known that. And like,
Yeah.
is there a special calendar that he follows? Was it like on?
Yes. And so in the United States and anywhere, there's zones. So every part of the country is broken up into different zones depending on like when the first frost is expected and the temperature and what types of fruit and vegetable grow here the best and what's the soil pH. And it's really neat how they have this zoned out perfect so like what items to get, when to plant them. And so there is that type of knowledge too. But one thing that Norm taught me and that Sam and I still use is YouTube is a huge resource for gardening and
Yeah,
homesteading. You can learn so much on YouTube. It's crazy.
I'm
So that helps
sure.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's so
Mhm.
cool. He should start a YouTube channel.
I know. I told him that too. I said, because whenever I post on our Instagram page, about Sam in the garden shed or Sam's little baby chicks, and I get so many questions from people that want to know this type of information. They're like, how does he do that? Or I would love to know how to start a seedling from a seed. And I'll tell him that. And he goes, well, it's easy. And I'm like, I know, but it
But
is
people don't know
easy, but
that.
it's not like it's an innate knowledge that you just have. Like you need to be
Yeah.
shown.
Yeah.
So
Like
it's kind of
I don't know. I didn't even know
right.
you had to start the seedling. I thought you would just put it in the ground. That's what I would have
Well,
done. I wouldn't have even looked it up.
and you
I
can
just
do that. I mean, you could go to, a nursery and buy a plant that's already started, but it's just going to be more expensive that way. And you can do that. Like if you've missed the amount of time or you didn't know how to start a seedling, you can go buy them, but it's just a more
no,
expensive
I
way to
literally would
garden.
have put the seed
Yeah.
in the ground and that's
Yeah.
it. I would have thought that that's the seedling.
Right. Well, and on the flip side, you can probably do that and it might work sometimes too. It's just if you start it, it's going to have a better success rate because you've grown it a little bigger before you put it in the ground. But there are some flowers where you simply put them in the ground and they grow. Like that's how I started my, all the flowers that I have right now. And they're just so pretty. I just put little tiny seeds in the ground and you have these huge sunflowers and it's just crazy. But a lot of homesteading and especially with gardening is trial and error. And sometimes you simply do just see how it works. Like you don't know and you just try it. And then if it doesn't work, you adjust it for next year or it's kind of it's like an ongoing learning experience. It's a fun challenge. It's
Hey.
rewarding.
And then from like the business standpoint, is there like tax benefits and stuff? Because I always hear of like here in Florida, they have
Mm.
homestead laws, and I don't know what qualifies as a homestead law. It's probably different in Arkansas than it is in Florida, but I know that there's tax benefits, but I don't know if you have to be like selling stuff. Do you
I
have
heard that too. I know there's like a
to?
homestead credit and it hardly takes anything to qualify for that, I think.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
and it's just, I feel like it's only just like a few $100s. And I think it's a
Oh,
one-time thing. I
oh.
might be wrong, but I remember thinking like,
Here I am
whatever.
watching Yellowstone, being like, oh, wow, okay.
Now, I'm not an accountant, but I feel like if you were homesteading to the level of where you were selling things or where you were, like we have bees and we make honey and sometimes we will give people honey from our bees, which is so fun. But if we were to be selling the honey or selling our baby chicks or doing something other than just using it for our family, then I'm sure that there would be, that would be like a business and you could probably write some things off for a business expense if you had a, you know, all those business things that you know about more than me. But
I'm so intrigued.
it is cool. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it. And I would say to anybody who has wanted a homestead and wanted farm animals and wanted to have this kind of life and they haven't started it yet, my advice would be to don't get overwhelmed and just start small. Like, maybe have a raised garden bed and grow a few things in that first, like maybe a few tomato plants, maybe try strawberries, like maybe just try a few things in your little garden area that you have and then the next year grow on it or
Yeah, like keep
just
expanding
start
because you
small.
just keep
Mm-hmm.
building.
Yes, or if you want chickens then get a little chicken house and have like maybe 4 chickens and try that and just
So where
learn
do the
from.
ducks live?
So we have a pond. We had the things ready for ducks. We just didn't have ducks. We have had ducks in the past, but we currently didn't have ducks. So that was my first question when they brought ducks out. I was like, "Are we prepared for these?" Because um, you can't just get chickens and then bring them home and be like, "Okay, I have chickens." Like you
Yeah.
have to prepare for them first. And so, like with the ducks, like we had a duck house. It's like it looks kind of like a dog house, but it's
Yeah.
right off of the pond.
Okay.
And so they have shelter and they have their pond. And I think they even have something in the middle of the pond that's like floating like a board so they can get on their board and sit by the water. So they're going to have a
That's
happy little
so
duck life out there.
cool.
And they can eat, they can be free range as well. And they will find grubs and things around the pond to eat. They have duck food as well, but I mean, they're self-sufficient. They're not going to just, wait for you to feed them or they'll die. I mean, they figure it out.
Right. What
Mhm.
about bunnies? Do you guys have bunnies?
We do have bunnies, and bunnies, when they make jokes about bunnies, they are not kidding. Like, we had a bunny who had 11 babies. And then a few months later, she had like 10 more babies. I mean, it's like they make a lot of bunnies quick. So we have a rabbit cage that has dividers. And so we have our like area where they have their babies. And then we have a separate rabbit cage that we put them after they're grown a little bit, where we keep all the females and then all of the males, and we keep them separate because otherwise it would
Yeah. They'll
seriously
just
get
get
out of hand.
overrun.
Yes, it really would. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But the bunnies, I mean, they become meat bunnies too. We've
Really?
kept a few for pet bunnies, but sometimes they're just meat bunnies. So
Do you sell anything? Do you guys like go to farmers markets and stuff?
we haven't done that. Like on occasion we'll have like friends say, "Hey, can I have a few chickens?" or "Can I have a few bunnies?" or whatever. And Sometimes the kids will say, okay, for a few dollars a
Yeah.
bunny or whatever that, I mean, they don't even, it's, we just usually give them away, but sometimes the kids like to make a little money on it and
Yeah.
like a little
Yeah.
business.
Get in the, hey, their little gift.
Hmm. Yeah. If we have too many, tomatoes or cucumbers, sometimes we'll bring them to church or eggs. We have so many eggs sometimes and we'll bring them to
Really?
church and people love that whenever they get fresh farm eggs. And so,
Yeah, I've had fresh farm eggs one time.
yeah,
Because my husband's friend, well, not friend, but like she works with him. She was so sweet. She was a little old lady in her 70s, and she had a couple of chickens in her backyard, and that was like what she liked to do, like on her off time. Sweet little lady, and so she would bring him eggs.
that's
And
cool.
that's how I found out that you didn't have to refrigerate them right away because he would
Yeah.
bring them home and they would just be sitting on the counter. And I'm like, well, what are we doing? Well, what about salmonella? Like, I don't. And he's like, no, baby, they haven't been washed. I was like, oh, there's like a Varnex on them or
Isn't it
something like
cool?
that. That's so neat how nature like works.
It
And
is neat.
it's really embarrassing how much
Yeah.
little I know.
So don't be embarrassed. I had a follower once message me about the baby chicks and said something about, well, why do you take the baby chicks from their mom after they're hatched? Like the mom needs to nurse them,
Yeah,
I just, the moms don't nurse them. There's
yeah.
no, they're not mammals.
I asked almost that same thing. I'm like, well, what does
Everybody.
your mom do?
So don't feel bad. I mean, it's like whenever you start learning about homesteading, it's kind of like it's just this big hole that you're going to just go down, this rabbit hole, because it's so interesting and you can just learn so much. And then once you learn it, then it just feels silly to think of all of this stuff you didn't know before. But it's so fun. And I would just say, start small and don't get overwhelmed. And with homesteading, it's going to be trial and error. Some things are going to work, some things are not. And you just have to learn from it and keep trying. So,
Sorry,
but
this is my current.
you're fine. This is part of it. I mean, it's why we're called Good Morning Mama. We have babies around us all the time. So
Sorry, guys.
it's
But
all
I'm
good.
so intrigued. I don't want to cut it short because I'm like so interested in the
Well,
homesteading aspect of it.
well, and I didn't know about any of this. When I was growing up, and I was probably what, like 30 or something when I first started learning about any of homesteading stuff. And I would ask my father-in-law so many questions, and he was so patient to answer them. And now that he's gone, it was like his gift to us was the teaching of it. And then like our gift for him is to just carry on that knowledge and that legacy of just homesteading and continuing this. And so it's fun to keep learning, and like you never stop learning about homesteading. And that's the neat thing. Like even in sourdough bread, like I was making sourdough bread and then all of a sudden I started making like wheat sourdough bread and rye sourdough bread, and just by
Sourdough,
changing the
cinnamon rolls.
flour. And it's like those little things that just make it so fun because it's like, oh my gosh, I just made this for my family and they're eating this bread that I made, and it's really cool.
That's what's so like crazy fun to me because so my husband and I we like to host Christmas because I have like a thing where I want the kids to wake up in their beds every Christmas morning. And because I grew up with my parents were divorced, so I would switch off houses. So it was always like a different tradition, which is fun in and of itself, but I wanted like anyways. So he and I started making our pastas from scratch for our Christmas lasagna. And like that kind of process, that whole fun experience, being like, I made this from like very, very scratch for the kids.
It's
It's so
rewarding.
fun. So I
Yes.
can't
And it tastes
imagine
better.
like growing the vegetables. Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
And the meat and all of that and the milk and like, it's just seeing the kids come back on their bikes with the eggs from the chicken
Yes.
so cute and such
Yes.
like a cool. Like that's the way it should be, you know? I
Yeah,
mean,
it
everything's
does feel right. You're right. Yeah.
feels good, I would
Yeah.
think. I'm
Yes.
still like buying from the grocery store doesn't seem as like healthy. And I can go all conspiracy theory on you, but I won't.
I know, right? Well, and it's expensive too. I mean, whenever like I mean, we have a family of 11, but when I buy a container of strawberries at the grocery store, it's like
Yeah.
$7. And that's not even organic strawberries. It's just regular strawberries and it's gone within minutes. And I'm
Right.
happy they love it and that we can buy the strawberries, but when we can get them from our garden, they taste better. They
Yeah.
don't
They're better
cost
for you.
anything other
Yeah.
than the water and the time that it took to grow them. And there's like unlimited strawberries. You're gonna have so many strawberries, you can't even eat them all. It's like, this is what we should be
I love
doing.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's so cool. That
Mm-hmm.
is so cool.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you as a mom, do you get like, because Rob laughs at me. He's like, yeah, yeah, you want land. You need to know where the kids are at all times. You have to keep them in like your eyesight. He's like, there's no way you're going to be able to manage like the kids going outside and just being outside like I want to. In my mind, I feel like that's like the best thing ever because I didn't really have that as a childhood, you know? Like I grew up in urban community. So I think that that's amazing for them to be outside running around, like going and exploring and doing everything. How do you manage that with 9 kids with them
Right.
outside on you have how many acres?
We have 160 acres.
Yeah, okay. So like how do you know where they are?
Okay, good. That is a good question. And so the older kids,
Because I know
especially,
you do. You always do.
right? I like it. It's kind of like a mama thing. I think we always know where our kids are, even if you have
Sorry,
nine
Karla.
of them.
You want to
You're
go play with water outside with Casey?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. It's sorry, it's so hot. It's so I have my
Water
friend
and kids are
here.
like the best combo.
Yeah,
So
she's
yeah,
like,
we
she want to bring them outside.
have, we have 160 acres, and I feel like moms just kind of know, even if you have, two kids or 9 kids, you just know where your kids are. It's just like this mom thing. You just know where they are.
Yeah.
But the older kids, they all know the rules of our property. I mean, they know what they can do, what they can't do. And the younger kids always kind of pair up in groups. And that is one thing that is so cool to me about having a large family is it is very rare to see just one kid off by themselves wandering around. Like that just is not something you see often. They are always paired up in twos, threes, fours, and they're always together. And they will go usually on a path. Either we also have that's another podcast episode is kind of our multi-generational homestead
Yeah.
type of situation, how like we have both sets of grandparents on our property. And so they'll walk to my mom's house, they'll walk to Lucas's mom's house, they walk to the shop. I mean, I know like the area that they're walking to. And I mean, we do live in the country and there are critters that we share the land with. I mean, there's possums and raccoons and we've seen a bear on our property yeah, but they run away from you. They don't like charge you. We have hogs.
About snakes and stuff.
We have snakes, we have deer, we have like every little thing you can imagine. Foxes. I mean, we've seen so many things, but snakes are one thing that we have we see them, we know they're here. We tell the kids stay away from all the snakes. They've learned to recognize the bad snakes, the good snakes. Um, Unfortunately, we've had 2 snake bites, which is not good. But it was right after we first moved here. I feel like now we've kind of like moved the snakes out a little bit,
Yeah,
but I think
probably.
maybe so. When we first moved here, it felt like there was a lot more snakes, and our kids weren't familiar with sharing land with snakes, and so Liam was 6 years old and reached down to the snake, and it was a water moccasin, and it bit him, and he was in the hospital for a few days. His arm swelled very big, and then he was fine, but it was scary. Um, so you're right. With homesteading, with land comes that part. You just have to be aware of it. You have to teach the kids. You have to make sure they have boots on whenever possible. My kids love being barefoot. It's it is. But we have ticks. We have to, we all just know to check for ticks. And
Really? So how do you check for a tick?
so you just look at your body, and if usually ticks are kind of itchy. And so, the little kids, they'll know, like, if their back is itching, they come show me, Mom, is there a tick on my back? My back is itching. And I look and I'm like, no, I don't see any ticks. And during bath time, I look under their arms, and seams of where garments go, like on the waistline, underwear line, are
Yeah.
common places for ticks. And you just have to make sure that if you see a tick, you remove it and we flush it down the toilet. But
When you
um,
remove it, you take it with like tweezers, right? Because you want to get it from the base because it can break off, right?
we just remove it. I just pull it off. I've never
Okay.
had an issue with it. I mean, I
Okay.
think people can overthink it. I've heard like using a lighter, you burn it, and I've heard use alcohol, and I've heard use this fancy tick removing tool, and I've heard all these things, but we just pull it off. I mean, we've not had an issue with it. You
Okay.
flush it down the toilet, and then you kind of do watch the area, because you always hear of the bullseye mark. If you get bit and there's like a ring around it, you might need to get on antibiotics in case you have a tick infection. But um, we've never had, thank goodness, we've never had any of those situations. But that is something to be aware of, is when you have a homestead, it does come with critters. Chickens help with ticks too, though. They eat ticks,
Really?
like guinea hens, especially. They love ticks. But before 160 acres, it'd take a lot of guinea hens. But
Yeah.
chickens do help with ticks if you had some like in your backyard. Yeah.
Because it's so interesting to me because for me, let me give you a little bit of insight into my life.
Yeah.
My kids are in the backyard and they're putting rocks and mulch in their mouth. And I'm like, less me, more my husband or my mother-in-law really getting on top of them
Yeah.
for like taking it out of their mouth, getting so nervous. But like God made dirt, dirt don't hurt, I guess. So it's really like, I mean, at some point as a mom, you just have to be like, live and let God. Like, hopefully everything's okay, right? At some point, right?
Not
You
going to
teach
hurt
them the
them.
best they can.
Dirt is not going to hurt them. If they, scrape their knee, they're going to be fine. They're going to learn from that. Like you do have to like loosen your grip a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not to say just let them loose and hope for the best, but it's not like that. It's just you let them learn a little bit. I mean, they go play in the dirt. They go walk around barefoot. They get scrapes and they're okay, and
Yeah.
they learn from it. And same, it could be another podcast or episode, but like the lessons they learn living like on a homestead or on land, I feel like are the same type of amazing lessons they learn from caring for animals. Like they learn skills of problem solving and just getting along with each other. And they learn so many things by just being outside playing that I could never teach them inside the house.
Yeah. They learn survival
Mm-hmm.
skills that
Learn
you
so
can't.
much.
That's so cool. That's really cool. And it probably teaches you as a mom to like the little things really don't matter. Like, you can relax a little bit. I know that you are on top, of course you're on top of everything, but for me, it's a little bit harder to do that because I have them in my close quarters. So I think them having space away from me is probably best too.
I think that also comes with age and number of children, but you're absolutely right. I mean, you can't be a helicopter parent over many children. And as your children get older and they do want to explore, here's Benny. You're not doing yourself or them a service by hovering over them.
Yeah.
Benny.
Hi.
There's Benny. So
Walking just fine,
Benny,
aren't you?
yeah.
After
Benny likes
physical
to,
therapy, is he done with physical therapy?
he's done. Yeah, he's all
Oh,
done.
that's
Yep,
awesome.
Benny broke his leg in May, simply getting out of bed. Of all the things he could have broken his leg doing, he's walking down his stairs of his bunk, and he was in physical therapy for about a month, and now he's walking normal. He had surgery on his knee, and he's yeah, he's doing great. Benny's my critter catcher. He always goes outside and he catches frogs and all kinds of things.
Benny was
Rosie, walk this way.
Benny,
Here's Rosalind.
Benny
Hi,
was
Robin.
fishing,
Oh, I like your shirt.
and he caught
Yeah,
a fish this big.
Benny
No
caught
way.
it. Do you have a picture of
Yeah,
it?
but he let it go.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have a
Okay.
picture of it? Pizza on your face. Well, if you buy land and start homesteading, it is going to be a
What's that?
comical but awesome adventure for you. And I
No.
cannot wait. It's my microphone. But it's going to be awesome. And I know you're going to do it someday. And I'm excited for you.
Yeah,
like the-
it's gonna be really fun. I can't wait. Do you guys like growing up on land? Do they? Do they like it?
You
Well,
like
you
growing
don't know
up
any different.
a bunch of land. Yeah.
You like, what's your favorite thing to do? Do you like to be with the chickens, play with the animals?
I like getting fish.
You like
Catching
getting fish?
fish.
That's
like-
so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
You like eating the vegetables.
And I like playing on the playground.
Yeah, you have a really cool playground.
Yep. Would you ever want to live in the city?
No.
No.
No, thank you.
I like my town.
She likes
Yeah.
her town. Yes, that's right.
That's good.
And he says, I want to live in the woods. He says,
On the
on the mountain. Oh my goodness. All right.
That's
Well,
all
is there
okay.
anything else you want to talk about for homesteading? We're
No,
getting
I think
deeper in here.
I think we covered it.
I think we covered it. All right. Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed this episode and we will talk to you next time. Want to join me? Say bye.
Bye.